Welcome in. Jesse Schule here from jesseschule.com. It's week 15 NFL. And on the kickoff show today, we got three special guests. Two of them are named Dan. We got Dan Kaiser and Dan's Rants. And wrapping up with the Monday night game, we got AM Plus Money of Big Al Sports. And if you haven't been here before, we do things a little bit differently here at jesseschule.com. We don't have a bunch of fanboys giving out homer picks, slapping each other on the back and telling everybody we're good boys. No, we value diversity of opinion here at jesseschule.com. So I bring in guys that have opposite opinions than I do, and I believe that gives everybody the opportunity to view the pros and cons of both sides of a particular bet. Speaking of diversity of opinion, I had a rather diverse opinion on the Florida State Seminoles being left out of the college football playoffs. I pinned that to the top of my Twitter. I've been getting a ton of hate coming in, hate mail about that, because I said that Florida State fans need to put their big boy pants on, quit crying. Life ain't fair. Sports betting and sports ain't fair. And that's come full circle on me, because the difference between winning and losing on last week's show was that Kadarius Toney offside call in the Buffalo-Kansas City game. And, Kansas City won the game. Apparently not. Flag on the play. It's coming back. And I got to put my big boy pants on and take that loss like a man. And if you ask me, was he offside? What I'll tell you is it doesn't matter. You don't call that at that point in the game. Come on, especially when you're not calling it at any other point in any other game. And you didn't call it on the next play with Von Miller. You didn't call it on Monday night with Jalen Waddle. I did hear Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show say it's black and white. Well, the interpretation might be that it's black and white. You got to line up behind the ball, but it can't be that black and white if it's not reviewable. And it falls into in my opinion, it falls into the category of things like holding and pass interference, where the referees have it in their discretion to either let it go or call it. And calling it on the last play of the game, deciding the outcome of the game, I'm not a big fan. But like I said, put your big boy pants on. And we got gentlemen with big boy pants coming on right now. Dan Kaiser. You wearing your big boy pants today, Dan Kaiser?
I'm wearing pants. I can say that.
Yeah, and I hear you're about to take the home team. You're a Michigan boy, going to take the Detroit Lions on a Saturday football game as a heavy favorite, and you don't think they'll let you down?
I didn't say that, but hey.
Well,
you said earlier.
You know the rules, Dan. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Since I know you're play already, I'll go first. But you said this is show not about fanboys and giving out homer picks. Well, I think that I fall into both those categories with this.
That's right.
Yeah, but my Lions have been struggling lately. Especially on the defensive side of the ball. They haven't looked good there. I feel this is a get right game for the Lions, or a need to get right game for the Lions. Because they need to turn things around quickly here, getting ready for the playoffs. The Broncos have been hot. You got to hand it to the coach. He's turned things around. They won 6 of the last 7. Russell Wilson's he's still inconsistent, but he's been playing a lot better. The Broncos are 7-6, fighting for a playoff spot. So this game means a lot for them also. But for the Lions team, as bad as their defense has been, if their offense is cooking, they can overcome their defensive inefficiencies. But the problem is their offense hasn't played all that great in their two losses over the last 3 games. But I think this is a game for them to turn things around. Detroit's 5th in rushing, and they're facing a Denver defense that's allowed the most rushing yards in the NFL. I see the Lions using Gibbs and Montgomery to open up their play action passing game to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporte. The offense is averaging 252 passing yards, and the Broncos pass defense stands 24th. This is a 3rd straight game on the road for the Broncos. They're beatable on the road. They're just 3-3 so far this season on the road. Detroit's won 4 of their last 5 home games. And the Lions have not lost 2 games in a row all season, and I don't see it happening here. I wish this line was a little bit closer to 3 than the 4.5, but still, I think the Lions offense will open it up in this game playing at home. They don't have to worry about the weather, and hopefully Dan Campbell gets a little more sensible and stops going for it on 4th down in his own territory. But even besides that, I still like the Lions in here to get the job done.
All right, Dan. Well, I don't disagree that it should be a get-right game for the Lions. If they weren't laying 4.5 points here, I might be tempted to take them myself. But as you mentioned, Denver is 6-1 straight up in their last 7 games overall. Russell Wilson, big bounce back season for Russ. When they picked him up from Seattle, high expectations, really disappointing last year. But this year, he's actually coming in with better numbers than Patrick Mahomes. And the Lions, it's not just that they've lost a couple games lately. If you look at their last 5 games, they've given up an average of 30 points per game. And they're facing a Denver offense that's, kind of found itself at the moment. And also, if you look at the total in this game, it opened at 46, and bettors have been coming in hard on the over. People are expecting points here. It's up to 48 across the board now. Wouldn't doubt it goes higher before game time. It does look like it has the potential to be a high-scoring game. One thing I will mention is the way I'm choosing to bet this game, Dan, is I like Denver's team total over. And when the team total was at 46, the team total for the Broncos opens at 20.5. And at Bet365 right now, it's still sitting at 20.5 minus 120. Now that it's up to 48, that seems like a pretty big bargain. If you like the over, or if you like Denver, or even if you like Detroit, you got to think the Broncos will score 21 points here in a game that just might be a shootout, an indoor game, Ford Field. I like the Denver Broncos to go over that 20.5 points for the team total. So not exactly opposite, Dan. There's plenty of chance for us to both win here, but I'm on the other side with the Denver Broncos on their team total over. Dan, before we send you backstage, tell us what you got going on. Tell us how you've been doing, where people can find your picks.
All right. Yeah, and I can understand why you didn't want to go just totally opposite with me, because you once again lost last week to me. So,
well, there was that controversy. We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, okay. I'm doing really well in the NFL. Last night, I split with the total. I didn't see that coming, but I also had the Raiders. You can find me at Picks and Parlays, JesseSchule.com, Sports Memo, InsiderZoom.com. I'm gonna start hitting the college football bowl games coming up soon. Take it easy on those right now with all the transfer portals and people opting out. But I got a couple of games I really like in that. Big card tomorrow in the NFL, and I still just picking off the NBA and college basketball games. I think will come through. So just check that out.
All right, Dan. Well, thank you for joining us. I'll send you backstage. Maybe you can get that dog some food. My man, Dan's Rants. What do you got going on for me, Dan? We're going to look at the Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll go first today because I don't have a ton of notes on this one. My stance on this game is going to be pretty short, so happy to dive in, and you're welcome to go absolutely nuclear on this beautiful game that I would suggest people to probably bet some other spots on. But yeah, you know what? I think at this point in the NFL season, it's very, very important not to just do the traditional look into the numbers of the team throughout the whole course of the season and kind of do a 1-1, equals 2 type of a analysis. I mean, a lot of things change, injuries, teams are beat up, teams play differently. Certain teams that have overachieved are going to regress. Teams that have not been what they thought they were might show up a little bit at the end. So I think I just want to say it is important for people betting on the NFL from this point forward, the rest of the regular season, to not just take all the game averages and still think it's that team, because things are way different. I think this is a pretty good example here. CJ Stroud probably not going to play. Mills, though, he's solid. He's solid. He was okay for the Texans. That's not really why I'm taking this stance here. And I think the Dolphins. I watched the whole entire Titans-Dolphins game. I think it was more of a Dolphins just kind of. They just didn't look too engaged. It was just not a great game. So I'm not like head over heels for the Titans, right? But at the end of the day, they're going to rally behind this quarterback. They're going to rally behind Levis. I think they're fired up over there. I do like the Titans coach. I like him at home. Texans are third to last in rush defense. You got a two-headed monster back there, Spears and Henry. I think they do okay. I think they take some pressure off of Levis. Levis will do what he wants. Hopkins has looked better. In the last 4 games, Houston, 6 points, 22 points, 21 points, 21 points. I mean, they're not showing fireworks. They're not scoring those higher numbers like they were earlier in the season. Henry against the Colts, had 100 on the ground. The Colts are 11th in rush defense, substantially better than the Texans. I think he can get going. I like him at home. It's kind of around the holidays. I don't know. I just feel like around Christmas time, I like these home teams. I like the overall vibes on home field here. And I would probably, me personally, because sometimes I put in larger wagers, I'd probably take the points out of it. This line's come a long way. I mean, this was Houston -3.5. Now it's totally on the other side. Has it moved too far? Are we a little late to the party? I don't know. Are they still going to cover the 3? Probably. Is it going to be a push? Probably. Money line at 168. You're not going to make a fortune. You're not buying a Lamborghini off a money line at 168. But, man, that's probably the way I'd look at this game.
Dan, it's always a pleasure when I have a guest and they give their analysis. And I agree with almost everything they say, yet I like the other side. And that's the case with everything you said. You made some really good points about how you need to be more aware of what's going on in the short term and not viewing teams on their overall body of work if things have changed. It's important to keep both in mind, but you don't want to lose sight of what's happening in the here and now. You made mention of Mike Vrabel and how much you like Mike Vrabel. I'm a big Vrabel guy too, and I love the fact that I'm going against Vrabel here. But if you shop around, you can get a 3.5 on the Texans, and that, like you said, will they cover? Probably. Will it be a push? Probably. Yeah, there's a good chance this game's decided by a field goal. In fact, if you just look at the Titans' wins, they've won a few games by a field goal or less over the last under Mike Vrabel. And he's the type of guy that if he's up by 3 points, he's not trying to do anything fancy at the end of games. He's more than content to kick field goals, go to overtime, go for two and try to win, as he did last week. One of the things I look at with this game, though, is you mentioned that a week ago today, the Texans were -3.5 on the look-ahead line for this game, and now it's flipped to the other side. I could get them +3.5. Now it's mostly 3s across the board, but if you shop around, you can get a 3.5. It doesn't look like Stroud's going to play if you read into it. He missed practice yesterday, unless if he's not able to practice today or whatever their next practice. I guess that would be today. He's probably not going to play. And that's fine because Davis Mills was the starter last year. He won the starting job in training camp and in the preseason. He performed well enough to keep the starting job. They just happened to pick a quarterback high in the draft, and Stroud came out and took the job away from him. But he's a capable quarterback. I mean, if you look at his stats last year, they would match up with some of the mid-range to lower tier quarterback starters in the NFL right now. And so he did win at Tennessee, threw for 178 yards, a touchdown and a pick. These two teams split the regular season series last year, both teams winning on the road. I believe it was 19-14 for the Texans. I look at that line move from -3.5 to +3.5, and I can't help but think A lot of it's baked in with the injury to Stroud, but a lot of it's the Titans just beat the Dolphins and the Texans just lost to the Jets. And anytime you get line movement based on what happened last week, solely what happened last week, if one or two of those points are because of that, I go against that. And I think the best way to play this game, Dan, is I think there's a good possibility when they announce CJ Stroud's out, when that hits the wire, when that's a headline on CNN, it flashes on Twitter, DraftKings and all the the Roto Wire and lineup sites are saying Stroud's out. That's when people will hit Tennessee. That line will bump up a bit. If you could get a 4 or better, grab it quick because it probably won't last, because people like me will say Davis Mills ain't that bad. That doesn't change. In fact, a healthy Davis Mills is probably better than a banged up CJ Stroud anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So
and after CJ Stroud came in and kind of took over the show, he's going to be fired up to play. I mean, he's going to be fired up to play. Look, he's solid. If he was my team's backup, I'd be thrilled. He's a good player, and I think he knows that too. He knows that personally. He's gonna want to play good today. The one thing I will say, Titans, they've been favored between 1 and 3 points once this year. They did win and cover that. Look, this is probably a game at one point. Maybe the Titans are up 10, and you get a late touchdown and gets it back below the number or something like that. It's always tricky when you have those spreads 3.5, 4, 3. Could easily be a 10, 11 point game. Last couple minutes, boom, it's gonna get covered there. Like you said, the way Frable kind of coaches these games. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, look up and down that NFL card. There are some beautiful spots this week.
One thing, Dan, regardless of the outcome of this game, we're all winners for one reason and one reason only. And do you know what that is?
I don't know.
The Houston Oilers throwback jerseys are coming out.
Wow.
And I think any real NFL fans got to have some appreciation for those Houston Oilers throwback jerseys. I know I'm a big fan of the Houston Oilers throwback jerseys. So anyways, I'm taking the plus 3.5. Dan's taking the minus 168 on the money line. There's a good chance that we both come out of this okay. Dan, before I send you backstage, tell everybody how you've been doing, where people can find your picks.
Head over to the YouTube channel. Probably the best idea. TikTok or YouTube. Obviously, my Twitter handle's on the screen, but the YouTube is a substantial, gaining substantial steam over there. I do have a members-only membership available on my YouTube now for some of the juicier picks, and been quite profitable in that as of late. It's at a good price now because I just started it. It's almost discounted just to kind of get people involved. So if you're into that sort of thing, maybe give it a shot. Pays for itself rather quickly. So yeah, head over to the YouTube.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dan. We'll send you backstage, and you'll be back in about 5 minutes. Mr. AM Plus Money, we're talking Monday Night Football. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll kick us off again. It didn't give me the greatest luck last time, but I don't mind going first.
I gotta ask you, are you guys scared of me or something? It's been like 3 weeks and nobody will let me go first. Anyways,
you want to go first? Hey, you go first.
No. I say the guest gets to choose. You already chose. You got to go first. I'm waiting for you.
All right, I will go first. The luck is on your side, obviously, but you know what? You did get me last time with the Chiefs over the Packers, but I'm here for some redemption today. So today, I'm going to be taking the Seahawks on the Monday night game, the +3, the +3.5, whatever it's at, even +3. I still like it. I think this is a game the Seahawks can win. So the Eagles, they're coming into this one off that big 33-13 loss in Dallas. Now, losses like that haven't happened often for the Eagles over the last 3 seasons, but when they have, the Eagles are 0-3 against the spread, coming off a double-digit division loss. Meanwhile, the Seahawks over the last 3 seasons are 4-0 against the spread, after losing 3 straight games. They did cover if you got the line closer to the game last week. I know early in the week you probably didn't cover on that one, but that was one that later, by the time we got to kick off, the closing line definitely covered. And when the Seahawks have lost 4 straight, they're 0-0 against the spread the last 3 seasons because it never happens. And if they lose this one, they'll lose 5 straight, which is unheard of in the Pete Carroll, unheard of with Pete Carroll over in Seattle the last few years. So this is one I think the Seahawks are in desperation mode right now. They are 6-7 this season, but they still have a chance to make the wild card just because of how bad the NFC has been. There's a ton of 6-7 teams right in the mix for the wild card. So they still have a ton of hope coming into this game. They just played 2 straight games on the road too, and they went toe-to-toe with some very good teams. Now they're going to be back at home where they got that 12th man environment. And mainly, this is a big fade on the Eagles for me. I've not been a big Eagles believer all season. Even when they were off to that 10-1 start this year, I was probably one of the few people who were saying they are not the best team in the NFL. I've always believed the 49ers are the best team in the NFL all season, and we kind of saw the 49ers expose the Eagles. But this is one where, the Eagles, they all year they've been scraping by with close victories against bad teams. They started the season 10-1 in their first 9 games where they had their first 8 games where they had the 7-1 start. Looking back on it now, they only had 1 win against a team with a winning record in that entire span, and it was the Miami Dolphins, who haven't beaten a team with a winning record in over a year. So already they didn't have, they had this great start, but they weren't playing great teams, and now the unravel has really started. I think it took place all the way back when they played the Cowboys at home in that 28-23 win. They won that game, but there was a few chances that the Cowboys had at the end. Obviously, they couldn't get it done in Philadelphia. The Eagles came away with that one. Then they went on the road the next week. They were down the whole game against Kansas City, came back on the very last play to win that game. Then they go home, a bit of a letdown spot against Buffalo, another game where they were trailing, but the unravel was beginning. That was one where, they came back at home very late when they were down by double digits late in that game, beat the Bills. But then the next week they get dismantled on their home field by the 49ers. Then they go to Dallas last week. They get destroyed by the Cowboys. I think this is the beginning of the unraveling. They've gone through the gauntlet the last few months, the last month with the teams that they've faced. And like I said, they're facing a desperate Seahawks team at home here. The Seahawks basically need to run the table to make the playoffs. I don't think, and the Eagles, we saw them do a similar thing last year when they had that big start to the NFL or the season, and they when they finally lost their first game, Jalen Hurts was banged up near the end of the season, but Jalen Hurts was banged up once again playing with an injury in these last few games. And we saw the Eagles last year after they took that first loss. They started to not be their best towards the end of the season. I see them doing the same thing this year, but for the different reason. I think last year, they were a dominant team, had secured their position more than halfway through the season, and then we're getting ready for the playoffs. This year, I think it's a long time coming. All season they've been scraping by in close games, and I think you're going to see them unravel. Give me the Seahawks +3 and the money line Monday night.
All right, AM plus money. Once again, I agree with most of what you're saying. I think you made some strong points. I'm going to have a bit of a contrarian opinion. I do agree, though. I mean, I came into the season saying I don't think Philly is as good as a lot of people are saying they are. I did bet against them, against San Francisco and against Dallas. I mean, big plays against them in both those games. I agree they were getting it done with smoke and mirrors during that 10-1 start. That being said, they still did go to the Super Bowl last year. They still do have a lot of talent on that team, and they're still a playoff team with a potential to make another Super Bowl run, perhaps. I mean, I prefer – there's teams that I like better than the Eagles, but Seattle, I think, is a team that's really in decline. You look at Geno Smith. He's banged up this week. It looks like he's going to play. It sounds like he could have played last week if they really wanted to push it. But as I said about a healthy Davis Mills might be better than a banged up CJ Stroud, a healthy Drew Lock might be better than a banged up Geno Smith. And I also compared Davis Mills' stats to Geno Smith's because Geno Smith's got some pretty pedestrian numbers this season after throwing for 30 touchdowns last year. He started to regress to the same old Geno Smith that we're familiar with. He did have a big game in Dallas, but that game was kind of an anomaly where just back and forth scoring. There was no punts in that game. Just every possession turned into a score. And I think there's potential for this game to be like that Dallas game. Neither of these two teams are stopping anybody on defense in recent weeks. And both these offenses can score. I kind of lean toward the over, but I'm looking at the Eagles team total over. You can get an alternative team total at Bet365 right now, over 23.5 minus 130. I think the Eagles score 24 points in their sleep against the Seattle team. The weather is good. We're not getting any wind or rain or sub-zero temperatures, which would be quite likely at this time of year in Seattle, but it sounds like it's going to be a pretty moderate day or Monday night. And I think this will be a shootout. I think this is going to come down to whoever has the ball last wins. I would lean toward the Eagles, but I think the best bet for me is Eagles over 23.5 points. AM, tell everybody how you've been doing, where they can find your picks, and what you got coming up.
Yeah, I've been pretty hot in pretty much most of the major sports. I'm 10 plus units in NFL, college basketball, and NBA for the season. My big run right now is I'm on a 20-3 NBA run after cashing with the Sacramento Kings last night. I don't have an NBA play up tonight, but I'm sure I'll have tons for the weekend. You can get my premium plays at theinsidersroom.com, pickadvisor.com, and bigal.com. So go check that out. And we're going to have a big weekend, tons of football, basketball, and obviously soccer. That is my thing. I know you dabble in the soccer yourself, so it's going to be a big soccer weekend as well.
All right, let's bring the boys in, and let me ask you guys: was Kadarius Toney offside, and should the refs have called it?
No, penalty shouldn't count for the great Mahomes, leader of the world.
Yeah, no, I think he was offside. I will concede that point. But I also think that the standard has been set that those calls are not made on a game-to-game basis in the NFL. And there's also the fact that the receiver comes up to the line, makes eye contact with the official.
Yeah, but then he scooched up. He scooched after he looked over. Didn't he do that? You went like this.
No, I don't think so. I just think the ref didn't respond. I think to be fair, I think that it's on you to make eye contact with the official and also make a gesture to get his attention. And I think he just sort of gave his head a nod, didn't see anything from the official, thought he was okay, and probably could have been a little bit more aggressive about making sure he was okay. But in the same breath, the standard usually is if the official sees you're lined up offside and he's planning on calling you, they give you the old wave back to let you know.
Not from the inside slot, they don't. He's way in there, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it was the guy on the other side. So the camera angle that we would have been looking at isn't going to get the guy behind him, and I think that's the guy that threw the. So he was looking at he was looking at the official on the far side instead of the near side. And bad for Kadarius Toney because that guy just can't do anything right these days. But for those who side with the Chiefs, they've got some pretty compelling evidence that wide receivers line up in that spot every game, or not every game, but I mean routinely. It never gets called. So I think when Mahomes said, "Listen, I've never seen this called before," that might have been an exaggeration, but I think it's based on a lot of truth. But it sounds like this is not a popular opinion with you guys, though.
Jesse, you said earlier to AM that you asked if we were scared because because we've been going first. The question is, are you scared because you didn't go against any of us? You threw out these team totals and those other stuff.
I think I went directly against Dan.
I think you keep losing, so I think you're scared.
Well, that hits hard. Whoa. No, I'm not scared. I did think
kind of melting under the pressure.
No, I'm not melting under any pressure. It's actually an advantage to let the other guy go first. I mean, when you think about it, in a debate, and this is a debate format, by going first, you're letting the other guy hear your points first, and then giving him an opportunity to counter. So, I mean, if you wanted to sort of get the better of a guy, you'd probably want to hear what he had to say first. That's how I see it anyway. So I certainly don't mind letting you guys go first, and that's actually the reason why I asked you guys if you want to go first or have me go first, because I think it would be unfair of me if I just told you guys to give your pick first. That would be an unfair advantage on my part. We see that you're not scared of anything.
I think the dog is. I think I know what the dog's saying. I just want to translate to everyone. It's saying there was a ton of public money on the Chiefs against that Packers Sunday night, and the NFL stepped in on that one.
Yeah, the call came in and said, "Get this dealt with."
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I want to thank you for joining me once again on the NFL Kickoff Show. We'll be doing a college bowl game preview tomorrow. Maybe we'll see some familiar faces on there. But until then, good luck, unless you're against us.